If you haven't achieved what you want to achieve in the first 25 years, let's make it really count in the next couple of years. And the way you do that, in the event of emergency, the yellow oxygen mask will drop down. And what do they say? They say you should always fit your mask first before helping other people. If you really want to help other people, one of the best things you can do is help yourself first. And there's a great saying on the wall in this training studio. It said, either you're winning or you're learning. So a key learning for me is always seek to get the help from experts. And linked to that is you don't need to do everything on your own. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Property Magic Podcast, in which I'm going to share with you some thoughts on how you can move forward quicker by actually looking back to see what you've achieved and what you've learned over the last 12 months. I'm sure that you, like me, you're looking forward to the festive season, spending time with family and friends, and when people slow down a bit, it's a great time to reflect on things that have happened over the last 12 months. And if you're thinking about planning for the next 12 months, it's always really good to see what are the key learnings and what are the achievements from this year. Now, I know a lot of people, they beat themselves up because maybe they haven't achieved all of the goals they want to achieve. And that's only natural, especially for high achievers where we're always trying to achieve more. But I'd like to recommend a book to you. I think I've mentioned it before, by one of my favorite authors and good friend of mine, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. One of the books he's written is called The Gap and the Gain. And what happens is, the principle is that many people are looking at where they want to go, they're looking at the goal, and if they're not there yet, they sometimes beat themselves up for not having achieved everything they want to achieve. And yet, what they really should do is look over their shoulder to look at all the progress they have made. And this is important because if you want to move forward, if you want the energy and the inspiration to keep going and move forward, you've got to be in a good positive state. And if you're in what's called the gap, you're looking at what you don't have, what you haven't achieved, that's a bit of a negative position. Whereas if you can look over your shoulder and be in the gain, we think about everything you've learned and achieved so far, it's a much more positive state for you to move forward with, especially if you're planning and thinking about what you want to achieve for the following year. So I really encourage you to do that, especially if you're feeling a bit down and you're giving yourself a hard time, you've not achieved everything you want. Look back over your shoulder and recognize all the progress you have made, and you'll probably be really quite surprised. Now, this time of year, between Christmas and New Year, I always run some special training for my mastermind students who are my 12-month mastermind to really help them get clarity and focus on exactly what they want to achieve. And I highly recommend you allocate some time before the start of the new year to think, what do you want 2025 to be for you? After all, it's the start of a new 25 years. We're a quarter away through this particular century, and this is a new 25 years. So if you haven't achieved what you want to achieve in the first 25 years, let's make it really count in the next couple of years. And the way you do that is by working out exactly what do you want, have that crystal clear vision, and also think about why do you want it. Now, you've got to be really specific about what you want. Don't just say, I want to replace my income. Well, how much is it? How much do you actually need in order to get that financial independence? And when you get financial independence, you can also get time independence. Because for me, that's one of the reasons you should be investing in property. It's all about getting a passive income coming in so you no longer have to trade your time for money. You can then choose what you want to do. I've just flown back literally today as I record this from a week in Dubai, and I'm always smile to myself when they do the safety announcements. So they talk about, in the event of emergency, the yellow oxygen mask will drop down. And what do they say? They say you should always fit your mask first before helping other people. And a lot of people struggle with the idea about becoming financially independent. They think maybe they're not worthy of that. What will other people think of them if they're wealthy? But what you need to understand is, if you really want to help other people, one of the best things you can do is help yourself first. If you become financially independent, so you don't have to work for a living, you have far more resources that you can use to help other people. Time, money, etc. So really, it's not selfish to become financially independent, it's selfless to become financially independent. You're in a much better position to help other people, whether they're family, friends, strangers. You could do a lot more if you're financially independent. So what I'd encourage you to do is to reflect back on the last 12 months. And what you can do is you can go through your diary and look at what do you actually do each month. And it's really good to make a list of all the things you've done, places you've visited, things you've achieved, because actually, if you just think about, well, what did I do last year? sometimes we forget those things. What I like to do is get my phone out and actually scroll through the pictures I've taken. When I always take pictures when I go on holiday, on my events, etc., and look at those, relive those memories, make a list, and by the end of that, you'll think, wow, you actually achieved a huge amount in the last 12 months. Now, you may or may not have got the goals you want to achieve. And actually, sometimes a little bit of focus and direction might help you achieve those goals. The help from a mentor or coach could be really useful. But the whole point is I want you to recognize and feel good about all the great things that have happened in 2024. It's going to set you up to make the most of the planning and goal setting for 2025. Now, normally that goal setting training is just for people on my 12-month mastermind. However, at the end of this episode, I'm going to tell you how you can get access to that training completely free of charge. Okay, so stay tuned because that training will really help you get very crystal clear on what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. Once you've looked at all the things you've achieved in the last 12 months, I want you to think about what are some of the lessons you have had? What are some of the things that maybe didn't go as planned or things that actually turned out completely the wrong result? But there's going to be a lesson in there. And sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, it's really hard to see that lesson. But I really encourage you to look back and find. There's always going to be, every experience you have, good or bad, there's going to be a lesson. Earlier in the year, I was in Milan and I was doing some filming for Mind Valley for some of their students, teaching them about real estate, as they call it. And there was a great saying on the wall in this training studio. It said, either you're winning or you're learning. And I thought that's a great way to look at things. So either you're getting the result you want or you don't quite get the result you want, but you're learning from the experience. So I'd really encourage you to look back over the last 12 months. And again, you can do it on a month-by-month basis, think about what happened. What are the lessons, what are the distinctions that you've got from that last month? Because we can learn from those lessons and we can be more powerful in a stronger position moving forward, having got those lessons. So some of the things that I've learned this year, one of them, and these are not necessarily new things, but that have just been really resonated with me this year. First one is recognize the importance of plugging in to other experts. You don't need to know everything. It's a common mistake. I see people go on courses and courses and courses and never actually do anything because they're still learning. You definitely need to learn, but there also comes a time for implementation as well. And often people think, well, I don't know enough, I've got to do another course. But you probably, if you've done some training, you probably know enough at least to get started. And so I was reminded of this because I'm very, very interested in specialized supportive housing. This is where we rent property to people with very special needs. They need a lot of extra care. And so the government and the local council pay a lot more money for them. And we're providing much needed accommodation for these people who really need this help and support. And also we could do quite well out of it financially. So it's a win-win for everybody. And I'm not an expert in that at all, but I found through networking someone who is a real expert, and we're now working together. So Charles is a new business partner of mine, and he has that expertise. I have the property expertise, and so we combine very, very well together. So a key learning for me is always seek to get the help from experts. And linked to that is you don't need to do everything on your own. Frankly, you're not going to have the time or skills or ability to do everything. So try and work with other people who can complement your skills. Where do you find people who can help you? Well, one of the best places is the Property Investor Network meetings and other property network meetings all around the country. Now, January is a really good time to go to a local Property Investor Network meeting because a lot of people have resolutions, right? This year is going to be the year I'm going to get my property sorted. They go to those meetings with high hopes and they want to be inspired, etc. So they're always very busy. So I'd really encourage you to go and book your place at your local Property Investor Network meeting for January. You go to www.pinmeeting.co.uk, find your local meeting, come and book your place. It's just £25 to attend. And by the way, if you've never been to a PIN meeting, you can come to your very first one as my guest. All you have to do is look where you normally pay. It will say pay with a voucher code and use the word podcast. use the word podcast as a voucher code to bypass the payment page, and you come to your very first PIN meeting for free. If you've already been to PIN, you know how amazing they are. £25 is nothing really. If you haven't been to PIN, it's about time you come along and see what you've been missing. Now, you know I mentioned earlier, we do this special training between Christmas and New Year for all of my mastermind students about setting their goals and their intentions for the next 12 months. What we're doing, we do sell that training for £500. However, you can access that training completely free as long as you book your place to attend your local PIN meeting by December the 23rd. So depending how quickly you listen to these, if you listen straight away, you've got plenty of time. If you listen late, well, you might have missed that date, which is why you should listen to the podcast every Tuesday when it comes out, by the way. But if you book your place to attend your local PIN meeting by the 23rd of December, either it's a paid place or it's a completely free place using that voucher code if you've never been before, we'll add you to a list and send you a link where you can come and join that online training with me, that masterclass all about goal setting, and it will really help you set yourself up for 2025 to really make it your best year yet. So I highly recommend you do that. There'll be a link in the show notes, or maybe below the video if you're watching on YouTube. You can come and click on that and go and book your local PIN meeting. The final thing I want to share with you, so we've talked about looking back, reflecting on what are the achievements you've made so far. We've talked about looking at the lessons, what didn't go so well, how can you use that learning to move forward and achieve so much more in 2025. The final thing I would say is this: for you to be really successful, it's about committing. So many people I meet in property, they're interested in property, but they're not really committed. And as soon as you commit and make, yes, I'm going to do it. So by the way, it doesn't mean a full-time commitment. You could absolutely have a full-time job. You could be running another business, but it's about committing that spare time you do have, whatever that might be. You're making sure you're focusing and doing the right things. You're networking. You're meeting other people who can help you. You're listening to webinars. You're watching training, but you're committing to do the things you know you need to do. That's what discipline is, really. It's doing the things that you know you need to do but don't really want to do. That's what successful people do. That's what means we get much better results than average people who allow excuses and reasons why they can't do things to get in the way. Ultimately, we all need to accept personal responsibility for where we are in our life, what we achieve, the results that come through. So as soon as you accept personal responsibility and realize no one else is going to do it for you, the buck stops with you. That's when you can start becoming a more successful person. So I do hope this has been a useful podcast. I just wanted to get you to think about, before setting your goals for 2025, look back and reflect. What's worked really well? Feel good about that. What hasn't worked so well? What are the lessons moving forward? I look forward to sharing on the next podcast. As ever, I encourage you to invest with knowledge, invest with skill. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, please like the video, come and comment, make sure you subscribe, and also hit the bell icon to make sure whenever a new video comes out, you're notified so you don't miss any timely announcements, like booking your PIN meeting before the 23rd of December to get access to that £500 training all about setting your goals and intentions for 2025. So, as ever, I encourage you to invest in knowledge, invest in skill. See you in the next video.